What if the secret to building a $3 billion empire isn't making something people fall in love with, but creating something so visually repulsive that human psychology forces them to pay attention? In 2002, three friends sailing in the Caribbean stumbled upon a crude foam clog produced by a small Canadian company. It wasn't rubber and it wasn't plastic. It was Croslite, a proprietary closed-cell resin that was lightweight, antimicrobial, and virtually indestructible. They didn't see fashion, they saw raw utility for boaters. Acquiring the material rights, they took 200 pairs to the Fort Lauderdale boat show. They sold out in hours, but what they unintentionally triggered was a psychological phenomenon known as the Pratfall Effect. In a market saturated with hyper-polished, fragile products, extreme ugliness reads as radical honesty and pure functionality. What followed wasn't just organic growth, it was a viral contagion. Between 2002 and 2006, Crocs experienced a meteoric financial expansion, scaling revenue from a humble $24,000 to an astonishing $355 million in just 4 years. They unleashed a massive social proof cascade. The shoe was so polarizing that wearing it made you a walking billboard. Hollywood A-listers, gardeners, moms, and even President George W. Bush were photographed wearing them. Retailers couldn't keep up with the frenzy. Crocs acquired its resin manufacturer, expanded global supply chains at breakneck speed, and rode a wave of pure word of mouth with near zero ad spend. In February 2006, Crocs went public, raising over $200 million in the largest footwear IPO in US history at the time. Crocs was no longer just a shoe company, it was Wall Street's favorite growth story. But hypergrowth creates lethal blindness. Trapped by Wall Street's demand for infinite quarterly expansion, Crocs fell into a classic supply chain disaster known as the Bullwhip Effect. Confusing a temporary viral trend with permanent baseline demand, management expanded into over 250 distinct SKUs, producing high heels, winter boots, and apparel. They signed long-term leases for hundreds of retail stores worldwide. Then, the 2008 financial crisis struck. Consumer spending collapsed overnight, but Crocs' massive manufacturing engine was still running at full capacity. The result? Warehouses filled with millions of indestructible, unsellable plastic shoes. In 2008 alone, Crocs posted a catastrophic net loss of $185 million. Their stock price cratered by 98%, plummeting from $75 to an agonizing $1.21. Wall Street pronounced the brand dead. To save a company drowning in its own inventory, you don't innovate, you amputate. In 2013, private equity firm Blackstone injected $200 million, installing seasoned executive Andrew Rees to execute Operation Lighthouse. The operational triage was immediate. They closed over 100 unprofitable stores and eliminated 50% of their product lines, forcing the company back to its core identity, the classic clog. But the strategic breakthrough came from cohort analysis. They identified two hyper-loyal consumer groups: healthcare workers and culinary professionals. These weren't trend chasers, they were utility-driven power users working 12-hour shifts with near zero customer acquisition cost, CAC. Crocs cut back wholesale distribution and redirected capital into high-margin direct-to-consumer DTC, digital channels. Operational efficiency keeps you solvent, but psychological monetization turns you into an empire. In late 2006, Crocs made a quiet $10 million acquisition of a tiny startup built by a mother in her basement, Jibbitz. On the surface, they were colorful plastic charms. Economically, it was a stroke of pure strategic genius. A foam shoe is a durable good with a low repurchase frequency. Jibbitz turned a static, one-time sale into a recurring microtransaction model, effectively applying video game DLC mechanics to physical retail. A $50 shoe was no longer a finished product, it was a blank canvas. By purchasing $5 charms, consumers repeatedly customized their identity, sending average order value, AOV, and customer lifetime value, LTV, soaring with gross margins exceeding 80%. With unit economics locked in, Crocs deployed its ultimate psychological weapon, weaponized polarization. In brand building, indifference is fatal. Hatred, however, can be converted into virality. In 2017, Crocs disrupted the fashion establishment by collaborating with Balenciaga to release $850 platform clogs on the Paris runway. The internet exploded in outrage, but that was the trap. By leaning into irony, Crocs transformed from an unstylish utility shoe into a badge of Gen Z anti-fashion status. They followed with hyper-limited drops featuring Post Malone, Bad Bunny, and Justin Bieber. Using manufactured scarcity, they triggered intense FOMO. Products sold out in seconds, trading on secondary markets like StockX for triple their retail price. Crocs didn't just adapt to fashion, they weaponized cultural irony. The Crocs story is not a fluke about a funny-looking shoe. It's a masterclass in modern corporate resilience. They proved that to build a multi-billion-dollar brand, you don't need a product everyone loves. You need radical polarization to capture attention, rigorous unit economics to survive economic down cycles, and a high-margin microtransaction model to scale lifetime value. They survived the retail apocalypse not by changing who they were, but by forcing the world to accept them on their own terms. Welcome to Venture Case. Subscribe now to decode the hidden strategies behind the world's most powerful business empires. See you in the next case study.